Portland, Oregon on this. Well, in Portland, it's a rainy day, and I have to confess my heart is heavy today because of the news in the United States of America. It's a very sad day for our country, and just praying for everyone's safety and well-being in the capital and throughout the country. But we're here to talk about music, so I'm going to try to put that on the shelf. And I'm here to answer any of your questions, this being the first Wednesday of the month. In place of our usual jam session, we do a question and answer session. And so if you have a question for me about piano or practicing, you can go to facebook.com/Hoffman Academy/live and type in a question for me, and I'll do my best to get to as many as I can. I can never get to all of them, but I'll do my best. Let me make sure I'm broadcasting. Every once in a while there's a technical challenge, so there I am. Okay, hearing myself. Okay. So go ahead, if you're watching, you're welcome to type in a question for me and we'll get started. Welcome to everyone who's watching. I see we've got Timothy in Costa Mesa, California. Shiloah is watching, Naveen, and several others. So go ahead, and if you have any questions about practicing or music or piano specifically, we will answer them. Let's see. Paul asks, where should I buy music CDs from? That's a great question, Paul. Music CDs are, in my opinion, going to slowly disappear, or at least become a lot less common. So much of music now has gone digital. I buy all of my music just online now. I have an Apple Music plan, and so I get most of my music from them. I do have a CD collection, and my wife misses LP, the old school turntable. She actually got one of those for our anniversary last year, and she's been building a collection of old LPs. She likes listening the old-fashioned way. As far as music CDs, I mean, I think there are a lot of online places you can get them, but I enjoy Apple Music. That's been a good place for me to get music. And let's see, I have a hello from Brianna in Florida. Hello to you. I'm glad that you're practicing every day, and I'm glad that you enjoy the videos. So I hope you'll keep up the good work. Let's see, hello to Niladri in upstate New York. Glad you're watching today. And hello to Ellie in Sydney, Australia. Let's see, here's a question from Susan, who says, I'm stuck at level 1 at Alphabet Towers and the system is not letting me progress. Could you please help me with that? I've contacted Stephanie, but she hasn't responded. Thank you. Sure. The trick to Alphabet Towers, and it may not be completely obvious at first, but the way you level up is not just getting the answers correctly, but you also have to do it in a certain amount of time. You'll notice there's this little timer up in the corner, and we didn't want to make too big a deal of the timer because timers can stress some kids out, and we don't want you to feel stressed as you play, but we do want you to get fast at the musical alphabet where you know it pretty quickly, and we don't want you going up levels until you feel very confident. So what you want to do is get at least 3 of those little lightning symbols after you finish a round. And this is in the game Alphabet Towers, in case you're not familiar with it. It's in the games section of our website. And if you do it, I can't remember how many seconds the game gives you, but there's a certain amount of time you have to do it fast enough to get that little lightning symbol when you finish the round. And that's called a speed bonus. If you get 3 speed bonuses and all the answers correct, so you haven't missed any notes, that's how you go up a level. And be sure to click on the check answer button right away when you're finished, because if you wait to push that button, the timer is still going until you click check answer. So that's another little trick you can use to make sure you get the lightning or the speed bonuses. So try that out. See if you can get 3 speed bonuses, all 5 rounds correct, and that should move you up to level 2. And then it's the same requirements to go up to level 3 and beyond. Try that out. If it still doesn't work, let us know, and we'll try and problem solve it from there. Thank you for that question. Let's see. Rowan asks, do you have any recommendations or ideas for something similar to learn violin? I wish I knew of a website that taught online violin similar to how we do Hoffman Academy, but I've never come across something like that. If anyone else has found that, please type a comment with a link to a good online violin program. When my son was 3 years old, or 4, we actually started him in violin super young. Maybe he was 4. And that was a lot of fun. It only lasted for a year, and he decided to focus just on piano, and has done piano ever since. But that was a lot of fun, and it would be great if there was a good online violin program. Doksh asks, can you tell the difference between trills and modulants? And let me point out, Doksh, that it's not a modulant, it's a mordant, I think is what you're referring to. Because I know that you're in unit 14 where we start talking about mordants. Let me spell it. A mordant, M-O-R-D-E-N-T, is a symbol, or I guess the symbol for mordant is this. And what a mordant is, it's called an embellishment. And embellishments were very popular in the Baroque era of music. And there were many embellishments that were popular. A mordant, if you see this over a note, like let's see, there's a note in your music and it's got that symbol over it. That means to play the note you see, the note right below it, and then the note you see again really fast. So if like this is a C, you would play C, B, C, like this. And it makes kind of a fancy sound. You just go back and forth, ba-da-la, ba-da-la, really fast. So that's a mordant on C. I play C, B, C, but I do it really fast. It almost feels like I'm just wiggling my fingers. And that's how you play a mordant. Now a trill is usually marked with just a squiggle like that. There's no slash through it. Or sometimes a trill is marked TR. And sometimes you'll see this squiggle go, quite a bit longer, which usually means a longer trill. And all a trill is, if you saw that over a note, that would mean, like let's use C again. In the case of a trill, you would usually start on the note above what you see and go back and forth, usually several times. So you might play D, C, D, C, D, C. You might do it back and forth 3 or 4 or even 10 or 12 times. So that would be a trill on C. I'm going to play D, C, D, C, D, C, but doing it fairly quickly. Ornaments are generally done in a rapid manner. And it's a skill that takes some practice. I've heard of this one professional pianist, concert pianist, who would practice her trills 4 hours a day before she would then practice another 4 hours of all the repertoire she was working on. And that sounds like a lot to me. I don't practice trills 4 hours a day. But it is worth practicing, because as you get to more advanced music, trills can be very useful, especially when you're learning classical repertoire from the Baroque or classical era. That's when you'll most frequently see mordents or trills. So great question. And for you students in the earlier units, you've got some really fun stuff to look forward to once you get to unit 14, or maybe it's in unit 13, I can't remember now. One of those two is when we introduce ornaments like that. Great question, Doc. Jacob asks, Jacob wants to know, how do I reach the damper pedal if I don't have long enough legs? That's a great question, Jacob. Well, so a few things. Number one, I usually just say, well, let's wait to learn the damper pedal until your legs are longer. And I promise you that your legs will get longer, and it may feel like it's going to take forever, but by the time you're 8 or 9 or 10, your legs will have no problem reaching the damper pedal. And it turns out in the Hoffman method, we don't start using damper pedal until around unit 12, is it? I think we introduced damper pedal. I might be off by 1 unit, but most songs at first you won't need it. And if you try to reach it with shorter legs, you'll be sliding off the bench and your piano posture will be really bad. The only other thing is if you can ask your parents to buy you a pedal extender. They're a little bit pricey, so you'll have to, be really nice, do some extra chores, or tell your parents you're going to be really dedicated to piano and this is really going to help you in your quest to become a better pianist. But pedal extenders are great. They basically attach to your piano, to a regular acoustic piano, in a way that it's kind of this platform mechanism that fits over the pedals of a regular acoustic piano that allows someone with shorter legs to still reach the pedal. It's called a pedal extension or pedal extender. You can find them online. I think they cost around $100. But that can be a great option. We have one at our academy, so again, students with shorter legs can still enjoy learning pedal technique. So that's what I would recommend if you're really anxious to learn the pedal. Let's see, other questions that I'm seeing. Teresa asks, what's a good way to start when you haven't played for a while? That's a great question, Teresa, who's in level 4. When you haven't played for a while, it's useful to go break yourself in gently. Like, don't expect that everything's going to come rushing back all at once. So you want to be patient with yourself for starters. I've also heard, had a little hiccup. I've heard the advice that, if you used to practice, let's say, an hour a day, don't jump right back into an hour a day, because you can actually strain your muscles. You want to work back up to it. Maybe start with 15 minutes a day, then a week later, maybe go to 30 minutes a day, and gradually build back up to an hour a day. Remember, these are muscles, and they're small muscles in the hands and wrist and forearm. And so they can't handle heavy loads like your walking muscles, your big muscles in your legs. These are small muscles, and you can strain them if you're pushing it too much. So again, you want to build up in a gentle way. And it's also good to go back and review some of the basics. Like maybe you want to go back to some of the earlier lessons, review the reading notes on the staff, review some sight reading, review some rhythm reading. You could do some of the games on our website to review some of those earlier skills, the naming the notes, the naming the keys on the keyboard, like randomly close your eyes and play any key on the piano and see if you can name it instantly, white keys or black keys. You want to know these basics really well so that none of those things are holding you back. And then, just jump right back in. In some ways, it's like riding a bike. If you don't ride a bike, if you learned how to ride a bike in the past and you take a break for a year, most people can hop back on and pretty quickly get back to the skill level they were at before. But again, be patient with yourself and give it a shot, review those basics, and you should be back up to speed in no time. All right, here's a question from Arnav who asks, I have a keyboard, so what piano should I get next? Great question. I'm not sure if when you say you have a keyboard, I would ask, do you have a digital piano like this with 88 weighted keys? So what you see here is a digital piano. Some people call them keyboards, but often a keyboard implies something with less than 88 keys, like maybe it's only 5 octaves. A lot of keyboards only go from here to here, or sometimes to here. But it's not the full 88 keys, so there'll be some pieces that you just can't play. And then also on keyboards, often the keys aren't weighted, which means that there's less resistance to pressing the key. The keys are floppier, and so they take less finger strength, and they also don't feel like a real acoustic piano. A real acoustic piano has a mechanism that actually flings the hammer up to hit the strings, and to fling that hammer requires a certain amount of weight from your arm to make that key play and hit that hammer up into the strings. So what I love all of my students to practice on is a real digital piano with weighted keys. So when you transition to an acoustic piano your fingers are ready for that. And if you only practice on a keyboard, your fingers will be weaker and it will be harder to transition to an acoustic piano. So number one, I would say as fast as possible, and this is my advice to anyone, try to, at the very minimum, get a digital piano with 88 weighted keys. This is a Casio Privia, and they have 88 weighted keys. Other good makers of digital pianos with weighted keys are Yamaha, Kawai, and Roland. All have great models that I've enjoyed playing on. So that's number one. Now, if you're really serious about piano and you've been on a digital piano for a year or two, eventually you want to give yourself the gift of learning to play on a quality, real acoustic piano. Now, acoustic pianos that are well built and well maintained, they're not cheap. They may cost you thousands of dollars, US dollars. I know we have people all around the world. But it's worth it. They make such a beautiful tone. It's really amazing to play on a quality acoustic instrument. And you'll find that it develops your listening, your skills, and your artistry. It's worth the investment. And the great thing, they really are an investment. Acoustic pianos that are quality acoustic pianos hold their value very well. A digital piano will lose most of its value within 10 years. But you can turn around and resell. I bought my first acoustic piano when I first got married, just right out of college. We paid $3,000 for it, and that felt like so much money to us, but it was one of the first things we bought. And 10 years later, I sold it for $3,000. I almost lost, maybe it was like $200 less than I paid for it. Pianos hold their value so well if you take care of them. A good piano can last 100 years. So after 10 years, it's almost still practically new. So it may feel like a lot of money, but it's a good investment. And I encourage you to play. If you play on a good instrument, it will help you develop your skills better. It will make you more sensitive. You'll be able to do better phrasing, better dynamics, better expression, better pedaling. All those musical nuances, all the artistry that I always try to get you to play with will be easier on a quality instrument. I think starting on a digital piano is fine, but as soon as you can afford it, think about upgrading to a wonderful acoustic piano. Doesn't have to be a grand piano. There's some great upright pianos. I love playing on a grand piano, and I think any student would who wants to take their learning seriously. Rowan asks, do we have plans to make more games? Absolutely. I've already been planning out the next 2 games. One of them is going to be a rhythm game, and we're hoping to have that out sometime this year. The games are tricky to create. It takes a lot of effort for our team to make even one of those games on our website, but I want to create, my next game will be, or maybe this will be the next after game, but sometime this year, a rhythm game where you have to, it shows you a rhythm and you'll either tap the space bar on your keyboard or tap on the screen the rhythm that you see. And a fun animation will show you whether or not you were successful with those rhythms, and of course it will go up levels. But I really want to give something where students can practice their rhythm skills in a fun way. That's another game we'll be working on soon. June asks, can you add Moonlight Sonata to the whole song to the new unit? Because I'm learning the 24-page song. Yeah, the Moonlight Sonata is one of Beethoven's great piano masterworks. And the Moonlight Sonata, if you want to learn the whole thing, it's incredibly difficult. The last movement is super fast in a very high level, and that would maybe be unit like 48 if we get that far. I do want to keep making more and more units, at least up into the 30s. I don't know if I'll get all the way to Moonlight Sonata third movement difficult, but the first movement is actually pretty reasonable. It will probably get to that sometime in the unit 20s range. So yeah, that's a really good piece, and I encourage you to learn it when you get to that level. Let's see, Susan. Oh, this is a follow-up question on Alphabet Towers. You're saying you're doing it as fast as you can. Are you supposed to do it on a touch screen? I don't have one. You don't have to do it on a touch screen. You can play it with a mouse, you know, a traditional desktop with mouse and keyboard. But just see if you're getting those lightning bonuses. Like if you're not seeing that lightning icon, I think you have to do it. I can't remember if the limit is 20 seconds or 15 seconds to get a lightning bonus. I'm calling them lightning bonuses, but I think technically they're speed bonuses. So try that out and let us know if you're not getting the speed bonuses, even if you're finishing in under 20 seconds. Remember, you have to click on check answer for it to consider you done with that. I want to keep helping you solve that because we want to make sure there's not a bug in going up the levels. Let's see. Leah Hahn is asking, my question is about technique on scales and exercises like Hannon. You recommend bouncing wrists on the slower speeds, but I've gotten advice about not moving wrist at all and just using fingers. Yeah, that's a really great question. And this gets at the heart of how different piano teachers teach technique. And piano teachers can get into very lively and spirited debates about technique and what's the right way and what's the wrong way. I'm not super dogmatic, meaning that I don't think there is one correct, sacred, holy way to teach piano technique. But some teachers treat it almost like it is. Like if you do this, that's bad, and if you do this, it's good, and that's the only good way. And, you know, wrist motion is one of these topics that can divide teachers. Some of them, you know, want a very quiet wrist with no motion and everything in the fingers. And some teachers want to see a lot of motion in the wrist. And do I think there's one right way? No. I teach motion in the wrist, and here's why. I find that if teachers don't get used to some motion in the wrist, that a lot of students will lock their wrist, and that will encourage and invite tension. And so I encourage motion in the wrist to help free the wrist from tension. Now, some teachers will say, well, if you do all that motion, that's going to encourage a different kind of tension. And so, if taught correctly, no motion in the wrist can be okay. But I find that for students, it's a dangerous path for some students. And I'm sure there are some teachers who can teach it correctly without tension. But in my experience, if there isn't motion in the wrist, some students will become rigid and locked in the wrist. And that is just really dangerous. Anytime there's rigidity in the wrist, like if you're playing advanced Chopin, you've got to have some wrist flexibility, both side to side. And by side to side, the wrist has like 8 or 9 different little bones, which allows for all kinds of motion. We can roll it, we can do it side to side, we can do it up and down. And that's really important for good piano playing. So again, it's a matter of debate, clearly, but the piano teachers that I have learned the most from and really respect and admire have led me to believe in training some motion in the wrist for beginners. And then at a more advanced level, as you're getting to faster speeds, you obviously can't bounce up and down on every single note. At that point, I want to see more of an integration as you're getting faster and faster in scales. If you want to play a scale at a fast speed, obviously you can't bounce up and down on every single note. Then I need to see more of a gliding motion from the wrist. You want to be able to, if you have a supple, relaxed wrist, it's going to accommodate getting the thumb under the fingers as you're doing scales. And what do I want to say? It's, again, something that can be debated. There's, again, the last thing I want to say is the wrist bouncing, I find a useful way to help students connect with arm weight being transferred into the key as they play, which, for a lot of young students, playing with finger-only technique is just a lot for those little finger muscles. And giving that little bit of extra support from the weight of the arm is, I think, considered by most piano teachers a very healthy approach. But again, open to debate, and I think there can be healthy approaches that differ from this, but that's the approach that I have found most helpful. I hope that is helpful to you, Leah. Jacob asks, I watched you playing Moonlight Sonata, and I wanted to learn it too. Is there a video where I teach that? Not yet, but again, as we get to the higher units, you got to make it all the way to unit, I don't know, I think it might be unit 24 or something. I'm starting to plan out my units all the way up into the 30s, but we'll get there eventually, so keep practicing. It's a really cool piece. Naveen asks, what is a good daily practice for little kids so they will stay motivated? That's a great question. I think it's super important to make practice time engaging and fun within reason. Piano practice is work. It takes focus. It's not like playtime, but I think it can be fun and engaging in like a focused kind of way. A psychologist named Csikszentmihalyi calls it flow. When you're in flow, you're very focused, but you're also enjoying yourself. It's a focused fun. Now, how do you help a child achieve that? You need to make sure that it's not feeling too hard for them. So you sometimes need to adjust the challenge level. If they're not ready to focus for 30 solid minutes, well, shorten it to 15 minutes or even 10 minutes at first. So find the right challenge level, because kids will not enjoy something that feels too hard. maybe instead of learning the whole song, we're just going to learn the first 5 notes today. Find a level that feels easy and manageable. But the flip is also true. If it feels too easy, they also will stop having fun. So you've got to help them find the right level of challenge. Not too easy, not too hard. Also, you can make it into a game as much as possible. Let's say they're learning a new short song and you feel like it's reasonable for them to play through the whole song because it's super short. It's a 10-second song or something like Hot Cross Buns, easy. You take 5 M&Ms or 5, we used to use chocolate chips, or however old they are. Let's say they're 7 years old, so you grab 7 chocolate chips and say every time you play it with no missed notes, you get to earn a chocolate chip. And once you've earned all 7, you get to eat them. Maybe if they're being sloppy and they miss a note, you can try level 2, where now they're not just earning them, but they can actually lose one if they play a missed note, which forces them to concentrate even more. So they earn one if they play no missed notes, they lose one if they miss a note. Now, if that becomes frustrating, take away the losing. Level 1 is you can only earn them, you can't lose them. Then maybe level 2 is now you can earn them or lose them. You're always adjusting the challenge level to keep it fun, engaging, short and sweet. But when you have a clear goal, like a game, like here are these 7 chocolate chips, now you've turned it into a game. Or take their stuffed animals, and 7 stuffed animals have to escape from the forest, which is on fire, and so they've got to all escape. Or they're all going to a party, and every time you play it correctly, 1 stuffed animal makes it to the party. Find what interests them. When my son was into Legos, actually he still is into Legos, but we used to use little Lego figures, and he would try to move across the piano keys, 1 key for every time he played it correctly. And he was trying to get to some goal, or he's getting away from Darth Vader or something. Lots of ways you can make it fun with some creativity and imagination. Great question. Let's see. Rahim in Boston says, my kids practice weekly and enjoy the lessons. If we like a particular song, is there a way to get music notes for popular songs? We like the songs you have on your website, but they are limited. That is very true. And to answer this question, I partnered with Hal Leonard, and we published, or Hal Leonard published, Mr. Hoffman's Popular Hits for Piano. The reason we couldn't put all of our popular songs on our website, the sheet music, is because all of these popular songs are under copyright. That's why a lot of our songs are traditional folk songs or children's songs that are in the public domain. No one owns the copyright, so we were able to integrate them into our method. Songs that are from movies and whatnot are all strictly protected by copyright. So we had to go through Hal Leonard because they have a whole legal team that can talk to the copyright holders and make the deals that need to be made, because it's super complicated. We've tried to get copyright permissions for popular songs in the past, and all these legal hoops you have to jump through, but Hal Leonard knows how to do that. So if you go to the Hal Leonard website and search for this song, you can order it from a local music store. Unfortunately, they don't sell it digitally at this time, but I'm trying to work on getting them to do that. You have to buy a book that they ship to you. And Hal Leonard basically partners with local music stores, so you can support one of your local music stores to buy this book through them. And it has all kinds of popular songs in it. Here are some in the collection. A lot of songs from movies or different pop artists. And if this collection does well, we'll make another one with more songs in it. So you can support the cause by ordering this book if you'd like more of our popular music. And I've heard from a lot of our students that they really love it. And a great feature about this is it has backing tracks that go along with the song, so you can play along and feel like a rock star. You can set the tempo to whatever you want, which is a pretty cool feature. So there's my little plug for that collection. Let's see. All right. Corrine asks, how many mistakes do I make when I play the piano? Wow, I make so many mistakes that I have lost count. That's a great question. because mistakes are really such a big part of learning anything. And I kind of expect that I'm going to make some mistakes when I practice. In fact, if I'm not making mistakes, then I'm thinking, well, maybe I need to challenge myself a little more. I know that I'm doing something tricky and interesting if I'm making mistakes, because then I know, wow, I'm doing something new. And so I expect to make some mistakes. And when I'm practicing, I work on those mistakes and I try and learn from them. Oh man, my finger wanted to play a B, but I really need to play a C. And so I'll just notice it and I'll practice it until I've fixed it. But I know that the next day I'm probably going to make another mistake and another mistake. And we just keep working at them. And that's how we learn and get better. So I hope you'll make some mistakes, because then I know you're learning. And as long as you pay attention to them, we shouldn't ignore our mistakes, but we shouldn't be mad about them or upset about them either. I think they're a sign that we're learning and growing. But yeah, to answer the question shortly, I make a lot of mistakes when I practice. Hello to Roland in Irvine, California. Hello to Angelina in Canada. So great to have everyone watching today. Hello to Lily in Illinois. Iris in Kentucky is asking if there's any other place than Apple Music to get music. Yeah, there are other places. I know some of my teachers here at Hoffman Academy like to use Spotify. There's Amazon Music. I think they still exist. I know there's Google Play Music. So there are a few online streaming services that, there's Pandora that I've used and enjoyed. Those are a few other ideas if you don't want to use Apple Music. There are so many questions. I'm probably not going to get to them all today. I'm going to wrap up in just a few minutes, but let's try and take a couple more. Janessa asks, how do I play a long trill that covers several notes? Well, again, it just takes practice. I like to think of just kind of rocking or wiggling back and forth. You want to just stay really loose. Don't get tight, and just kind of think of it being kind of this spontaneous wiggle. You don't want to be tense. If you're using a lot of big finger motion, the trill won't work. And, just give it a little bit of practice and stay relaxed. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Man, so many good questions. And I'm sorry I'm not going to get to them all. We will do this again next month, first Wednesday of the month. But I am going to take just one more. And this will be my last one. Hi, Mr. Hoffman. This is from Mimi. Do you have any tips for not getting your hands tired when playing broken chords? I love to learn piano with you. Thank you. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. And that's a great question. Any tips for not getting your hands tired when playing broken chords? So if you don't know what a broken chord is, it's where, well, let's back up. A chord is if you play two or more notes at the same time. That's a chord. And as you get to later units, you'll learn about triads, which is a group of three notes, usually like do, mi, so, all played at the same time. And then around unit 5 or 6, we start learning about broken chords, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to break a chord. So a broken chord is where you just play them one at a time. Do, mi, so, do, mi, so. My best advice for your hand not getting tired is to just make sure that you're doing it in as relaxed a way as possible. We talk about piano posture, having a relaxed arm. Remember the trick of like picking up your arm like you're a puppet and then just dropping it. Or ask someone else to do that for you. Pick up your arm, and when they let go, it should just flop in your lap. And as you play, make sure you have that feeling of just a really floppy, relaxed arm. And then let your fingers just kind of roll from note to note. You don't want it to feel like a lot of effort. Let me see if I can show you. So, see how I'm barely moving at all. You don't want to like really go crazy. You want to just be super chill about it. And think of using the weight of your arm to sink into the notes, playing near your fingertips. And part of being a good pianist, I think, is finding the least amount of work possible to get the job done, right? That's what efficiency means. You don't want to do extra work that you don't have to do, right? If you're washing the dishes, you don't want to wash the dishes more than you have to with these huge arm motions. You just want to get the dirt off and, okay, I'm done. If you only need to wipe that hard, there's no need to like scrub it super hard if it's just like a little smudge of peanut butter. You just go whoop, wipe it with some soap and it's good. So same with playing piano, just get the job done. If you have a nice firm fingertip, but just firm enough. You don't need to like overdo it. I find that if your hand is getting tired too quickly, it might be because you're working too hard somehow. Okay, and it could be over curved fingers or extra tension in the wrist. Again, you want to stay loose and relaxed and just stay near the fingertips and let gravity help you play each note. Thanks for so many great questions today. Next week we'll be back with the finger puppets, with making some music together, which is my favorite. I mean, I love doing these questions and answers, but my favorite is making music with you. But I think this is really useful. We're definitely going to keep this tradition going. It's fun to interact like this and get your questions. I apologize if I didn't get to your question, and I hope I can get to it next time. And I hope you all keep making music. Go to the piano every day. Some of you are doing our 14-day challenge. If you haven't heard about it, there's hashtag Hoffman Piano Challenge going around social media. And you can help it go bigger by going to the piano every day for 14 days. That's the Hoffman Piano Challenge. It's a new year, so you can set a new habit of daily practice. Doesn't matter how long, just get to the piano every day and make some music. You can share your progress. If you want to take a picture of yourself practicing, share it on social media with hashtag Hoffman Piano Challenge. Then we'll all be able to celebrate and cheer each other on. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and share it, and help us spread the word about Hoffman Academy so more people can learn with us online. We've got a great community, and I really enjoy making music and hearing from all of you and seeing your great progress. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you all next week at our